Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello, beautiful Krystelle. How are you doing?
I'm doing so great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well as well. And as we were talking just before the recording started, we were saying the beauty of journaling and co-creating on a piece of paper and how it was beautiful to actually connect with the paper. And there's such a humility to do so. So I think both of us, we just went through a beautiful phase of like having creativity comes in, ideas flowing in, and we were writing on paper because literally that's what I did like a couple of days back too. Oh, it's crazy. So let us start today, our episode number 37. I just checked, already
Oh,
37. I feel deeply blessed, and I want to thank you again, Krystelle, for this presence that you're offering me, to have access to your knowledge, your heart, and your intention and your mission. So thank you so much. Today, we're going to dive into vulnerability.
yeah.
Wah! So vulnerability, what is vulnerability? How to embrace it, and why is it so important? So we'll go with the flow and see where that leads. Um, and I will start by saying that vulnerability is something that has, I think, one of the thing, even more than other concepts, that has not been taught and understood for so long in the modern society that we live in. How the system is made, how families are built in together. There's such pride. We have such fear to actually be judged or rejected, um, that we don't allow ourselves to actually embrace vulnerability. Um, and yet, once I started to embrace vulnerability for my part, this was the key that unlocked everything else in my wisdom, in my inner love, my self-confidence, in growing even more into my faith, is that I opened up to my own vulnerability. So I believe this is one of the most important factor to help yourself not only grow, but reach your personal freedom and truly embrace authenticity. Um, for me, vulnerability comes this way. It's a humble, truthful, and honesty that is um that is from within, that is allowing you to admit to yourself some things that is not feeling comfortable at the beginning, more often than not, right? Because you're feeling discomfortable, you feel uncomfortable, you have not been used to face your own vulnerability. So it comes as a very tender truth for yourself, where you feel the most at where you feel the most fragile in this positioning, because you're really putting yourself out there bare and naked. So this vulnerability shows up as something that's fragile, that's something as is, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm going to show up or say this thing, that really puts you bare naked. Like you really feel naked in front of whomever or whatever you're facing right now. But yet it is the strongest tool to empower yourself. And when you really show up in vulnerability, you will be quite surprised of how people around you respond to it. There's something about vulnerability that brings out tenderness in others, compassion, understanding, and more than ever, connectiveness. That's it. I'm gonna stop there, but like it brings people together to show up in vulnerability. So what we believe to be such a weakness is actually our strongest asset. So that's how I would describe vulnerability.
Thank you so much. And for real, I'm like, I don't think I can explain it better. because it resonated within me exactly the same way. And you said two words, and that's two words that comes to me when I think about vulnerability. Actually, maybe three: truth, honesty, um, strength. And I feel that there's something about, to have access to our truth, we need to go through vulnerability first, because it's really easy to not have access to our truth, actually, us with ourselves. It's really easy to bullshit ourselves, to give us excuses for whatever behaviors or way of thinking or belief we have. And there's something that is about intimacy going within, in that sense of like connecting so much that you, through your vulnerability, will have access to the truth within. And this is also a way to come back to um, alignment. Um, and you were saying that it connect, it creates, there's something about safety that comes to me when we talk about vulnerability, that
Mm.
also attract others or influence others to be in their vulnerability as well. And I feel that through vulnerability, there's also authenticity coming with that. And if I can talk about this, one of the things I will say, one of the, I don't even know how to name it, but what taught me the most about vulnerability and have access to my truth is Mama Cacao, through um, cacao ceremonies, which the sacred cacao opens, connect us to that, to our heart, but that vulnerable part within us that give all the answers. And I feel that when we offer ourselves this, we choose the path of less resistance.
Mm.
And there's something powerful there that I'm still practicing, and I'm sure, Maxie, you're still practicing it, you as well. And I'm just calling all of us to practice more in that sense of um, practicing reconnecting with ourselves and paying attention and giving ourselves the right to feel whatever we feel. And it's not about acting upon it, but we have the right to feel whatever we want to feel. And more gonna allow ourselves to be in our vulnerability with ourselves. It will be easier to do it with others and feel safe. Because as you were saying, when I come and I say, I don't know, I was acting this way because I was scared that you leave me, for example. I was scared that I was gonna be abandoned through our relationship, for example. And as we are talking about this, that was something that I already said once in my life to someone. And because I allow myself to go there, something shift in the relationship that I have with that person. That before was more like in a fighting mode. And when I put word and became vulnerable and humble about what I was truly feeling, there was so much empathy. We were crying of just thank you to allowing me to see you through truly. And it creates, I feel that it creates the opposite effect of what we think it's gonna happen. I
Mhm.
think that we're gonna push away people with our truth. We often
Mhm.
feel that our truth is not enough to be seen, to be heard, to be valid. So we go on and with our all our we cover ourselves up, we put masks. And it's not because we
Mhm.
are bad people. We all want to protect ourselves, and we all
Mhm.
want to be accepted and loved by others. But there's power. I feel it's about taking our power back when we practice I will say vulnerability, because it's something that is already within us, but how much we're gonna connect to it and give it space for it to exist. So I really love the topic this morning because it's morning for me. It's later, like evening for you right now, Macy. But what I want to say with that is, I think I want to encourage that we talk more about this, and how different ways to how can I express my vulnerability, and what happened if I'm being vulnerable and it's not being well received, because that's something that can also happen. But that doesn't mean that you have to shut down, that you have to stop being vulnerable. So that's maybe another way that I would like us to talk about it. But I want to give it back to you.
Terribly sorry, guys. I think we got disconnected for a moment.
It's okay.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So you were saying about how can we connect more to our vulnerability and what happens when we're not being welcome, when we open up, right? Those are so pertinent. We'll see how time goes. And if it's not enough, we'll definitely do a follow-up episode next week, because I feel like the question you just asked are really worth looking into. Definitely. I love this, Krystelle. So do you hear me right now? This is
I
my...
hear.
Okay, perfect. It's funny because yesterday, upon writing to my friend that is going through this process, I said exactly that, that if we want to embrace more authenticity in our lives, we have to honor our vulnerable parts. We have to honor every part of us. And this big chunk is the vulnerable part, that it goes hand in hand, like you just mentioned. For me, the way I see it is that what makes a flower the most beautiful and strong is the inside of the flower, the antennas, what creates the nectar, where does the bees come and feed themselves is inside of the flower. And from the inside of the flower, all of the rest comes and becomes floral. The color spreads out, the petals come in, but the most beautiful and important part of the flower is inside. So for me, vulnerability seems like we said before, we want to protect it at all costs because it holds such power inside of us, because we let it hold power inside of us. So vulnerability comes into often the fears and what we're scared about, and that what connects with the inner child is the tenderness is the fragile part inside of us that we think it's fragile once again, but it's actually what we can transform, what we call transforming it and transcending it into our greatest weapon, right? So for people to relate with that, it's the little protective part inside of the flower that we have to protect, that we think we have to protect at all costs. But actually, once we actually open up and admit it to ourselves first, then to others, it becomes our greatest strength. And I love how you mentioned all the social mask, all the thing we want to defend. So for us, the factors for you to understand what is truly vulnerability is what seems to be protected at all costs. The defense mechanism come up, whether it's a social mask come up. When you have a feeling that you are in a defensive mode, that you are in an attack front, that you are arguing yourself out, and there's something hurting inside, what is the inside? That is your vulnerability, right? It's often linked also with your inner child wounds, with your deepest fears, right? And it's the tender part that you are scared to show first and foremost, right? But with practice, like Krystelle said, like anything in practice, the more you practice to express yourself, in vulnerability, the more you see the power to show up this way. And you learn actually to develop your skills of communication, right? Because you start to communicate in an empowering way. And if it comes with crying, if it comes with living your emotions, there's such freedom and liberation when you express your vulnerability because you're not resisting it anymore. Like you said, the path of least resistance. It takes you so much energy to defend yourself, to pretend, to be in your defense mechanism, to go all around the issue, than to actually go straight to the point saying, you know what, fuck it. I am hurt, or I feel hurt because of da 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 da. I feel scared that you're going to leave me, or I feel not seen, or I feel like anything that really is your level of vulnerability. I want to follow with the level of vulnerability for each one of us, right? It depends of how aware you are, self-awareness towards yourself. I think we discussed of self-awareness in my one of my other episode. What is it exactly? So you can look that back. But your level of self-awareness will dictate how vulnerable you can reach deeper inside. Because life is beautiful. We keep unlocking and we keep unlayering new levels, new layers of inner truth, of wisdom. So start small for you. If there's something that makes you uncomfortable, but that hurts you deeply, what is it? That's where your vulnerability is going to show, right? Here comes a time where it's going to be easier to express when you're hurt, when you don't like the situation up, and then something else going to come up. So vulnerability is going to come in different layers and in different depths, which is totally normal, but it stays vulnerability. Your intention here is to just learn to seek more what is going on inside and honor more and more that part. It's not going to be perfect, obviously. Like I know there's still part of me that is, let's say, when it comes to my family, when we get into arguments, it's much harder for me to admit my vulnerability at that moment because there's triggers, because there was way that we were built into this dynamic with my family. Then I can do it with my friends. It's much easier for me, for example, to express my vulnerability with friends than with my closest relatives and families, right? So it comes in layers and it comes in steps and practice. I want to add that definitely.
And if there's
yeah,
oh,
go on. No, that's perfect.
You make me think about two things, and when you said that it's easier for you to be vulnerable with your friend, for example, than our family, the people that know us the most, unconsciously, they know our most vulnerable part. And we can call it also, there's also, let's say, weak part of us. And this is where we're going to feel more triggered because they go right into it and they touch it. But the second thing that I want to say about this is more you become aware of yourself, so more you're spending time in different type of activities, workshop, routine that allow you to reconnect with yourself, then you're gonna know exactly what are your vulnerable part.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows us to, I don't want to say protect, but for example, if someone is trying to attack you, to hurt you in your vulnerable part, if you already know this part of you, I feel that you will already be clear about it and you all will already know that. So it's like, yes, I know. And it's going to be easier, I feel, and I can observe to put boundaries when you know where are your vulnerable part or also weak part. It's like they don't really necessarily go together, but they can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that it's also a way, when I say like protect ourselves, protect our energy, with who I'm gonna interact, who's gonna be by my side, who I'm gonna let in my energy feel close to me, or at what distance. I feel that it comes back to that. When you know, it's about knowing ourselves, and it
Yeah.
starts healing yourself.
Because it grows in confidence too, so you're more confident about what lies within. So thus, yeah, I see what you mean.
Exactly. And it will be, again, by embracing that, you're not going to be ashamed. You're going to be confident in it. So if someone try to trigger you or attack you or in that, it's gonna be easier for you to like, and I know that's a vulnerable part of me, or I'm being vulnerable right now, and maybe you're trying to hurt me, or and I'm not gonna let this happen. So I'm gonna make sure that we are the one that needs to love and make sure that we are respected and that we are protected. But it also comes to knowing those parts.
I love
It
that.
takes a lot of humbleness, a lot of I'm gonna put my knees on the floor and surrender to like, yeah, that's also part of me. And that's what makes me again like a strong person. It's not about not crying, about pretending to have it all. I feel that we have it all when we are able to go there. When we know our shadow are part of us that we repress, that we don't want to interact, that we fear, all that. And I feel that that's what comes bring us to come back in wholeness. That's what I wanted to add.
Oh my gosh, girl, this is so beautiful. Oh, I love it so much. I have shivers almost. Like it's so beautiful and powerful how, yeah, honoring each part of us, the shadow self is part of us, to embrace our true power. I love that you mentioned going back on your knees, going back to see humility, to recognize that shit, I'm scared to death for da 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 da. I recognize da 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 right now. And guys, it's not because you feel this free right now that it has to stay like that. But how can we expect to heal or grow or get even more empowered if we don't see where are the wounds, right? How to face them? How can we embrace our truest power if we're having some things hidden away that we pretend to repress and we're trying to repress, right? How can we demolish a whole house to build a stronger house with great foundation if we have put aside some rooms that are forgotten? You have to clear it out. You have to clear every room of this house.
Some mold that we only add that we
A cover up,
a cover
and
up or we painted over it, but when it comes back to the root.
it's raw. It's really beautiful what you said. So it is per se, that's what I say, it's one of the most important, if not, to allow us to embrace our true power and our true truth. Um, I loved everything you said. And let me remind myself, what was the two questions we wanted to answer that you provided interesting questions.
Um, I'm like, what was them? Um, how to connect to our vulnerability. I think that was one
The
of them.
first,
And what to do when we are not well received or
I
welcome.
love it. So this second question, I feel like it's a whole episode of itself because I
Yes.
feel like many people have experienced that, and that makes it even more shut down and not feel safe, right? The first one is how to connect back. You mentioned something very pertinent to give yourself the confidence, is the self introspection, right? The time that you spend within yourself. And I know, guys, it feels repetitive because at the end of the day, it's all within. This is the title of my podcast. This is why it's called this way, but it's all within. So the self introspection, rising in self awareness, seeing, like, personally what I do and what I did with myself and I help with my clients is that I use my life situations that triggered me to go within, to go deeper. So when I notice something really triggered me emotionally or made me like react this way or my in my worst version of myself, for example, and it can be really silly in your mind, but it's not silly because it is connected to a wound. It is connected to a reason of why you're reacting this way, right? So a tip to help you to say, hey, Macy, where do I start to connect to my vulnerability is using your life experiences that has triggered you during the day or the week and reflect on it, right? And then there's tools, there's resources, there's questions that can be asked to help you within the right questions to help you dive deeper into your vulnerability. We're here to help you, obviously. I'm great to give really directed questions that are thought-provoking. So every activities that help you self-reflect, journaling, meditating, being part of retreats, learning more about the concepts of what are the wounds, what are the different things that are coming out, what are the common fears, because people can have different layers of knowledge when it comes to communicating it and learning about oneself. So sometimes having some ideas or leads can help you be more motivated and inspired to go within, instead of going with a blank sheet of paper and you just don't know how to express yourself with your vulnerability. um I would say, yeah, the best ways to reconnect to your vulnerability would say it's self-introspection and self-awareness, exactly what you said, Krystelle. And um starting to be with oneself. If you have to cry, cry with oneself. Starting to be comfortable with you, actually, right? How many people are not comfortable with their own self? That scares them, that don't allow themselves to cry with themselves, that don't allow themselves to feel what hurts, that don't allow themselves to take the time to experience those all. Starts with oneself, because I guess but as I'm saying that, maybe some people feel more safe starting to do it with someone they trust too. So it really depends, I guess, with people. So
I
what do you
felt
think?
that it's some like they dance together. Either like you start doing it yourself by yourself, but you will also learn through others, through security attachment and all that. But also knowing who are the type of those type of people in your life that you can practice this alone with them. But another thing that I want to add on what you just said is, you know, when you spend so much time scrolling over your phone, or you always find, you always want to find an activity to distract yourself. Or, and I'm not saying that I'm against, but you will watch movies, TV shows. I'm not saying to not do it, but they are always to distract ourselves. And there are so ways to allow ourselves to rest and all that. So what I want to say with that is just again taking the time to observe yourself. I want to be surrounded. I want to go I don't know, maybe dance in a club, or I want to watch TV right now, or I want to take my phone, or what is it that, is it because it's really something that I want to do in the now because it's going to be fueling for me, or because like it's gonna allow me to relax, or I feel like kind of strange with it and I don't want to deal with that and I don't want to feel myself, so I just want to be out of the home, or out of the home and being disconnected, so then I don't feel. And I'm not saying to not do it, because sometimes it's okay if today it's too much for me. I
Mm,
will consciously distract myself, and I will be aware of my decision later.
mm.
I'm going to take the time to come back on. I'm going to take the time to come back in and see what's going on. Or are you right now spending your life running away of yourself? But then that's going to cause misalignment. That's going to cause type of relationship, plural and different type in around yourself, that you're gonna feel not connected, or not, that's gonna is not nourishing and not fueling you, or you're not like, it's not the type of life that I want to, and maybe feeling all upside down or not good. what's going on. It all come back to go within. And I love the name. I love the name of the
Isn't
podcast
it
because
perfect?
I feel that we say it so much that we don't take it seriously. But consciousness, it's another word for the soul. Depends of how we want to approach it.
Mm.
Consciousness, our soul knows it all, knows the solution to every things that we face, knows how to heal our bodies, know how to everything, but we get in the way. And if we want to create a massive change, or we want to, maybe you were behaving in a way in your life, and now you're like, I can't understand how I was not seeing it, or I was not seeing that, or I was being like that. In what That's the work we do. That's why we find different ways to connect to the soul, to connect to consciousness, and this is where change is possible. When the soul, when consciousness is being touched, and we are mirrors, we give tools, but the soul knows already what needs to be done, or knows the answer of the decision that needs to be done as well, in order to go in the direction, for example, that we want to go. I'm giving that example, but
Wow.
mm,
Girl, this is so powerful. You are on fire. I love this. And we're gonna have to close up because time is flying, obviously, and we want to respect our timetables. But one key word I want to take away from all of this is consciousness. You said it very well. And I thank you for reminding all of us the power of it. But you said making a conscious choice of distracting myself right now because it's too much, or are you unconsciously keep doing something by default? The action per se doesn't matter. It's what your intention and what's your level of consciousness when you do it. That's where you shift the power of your life and your soul.
mm,
This is definitely something we're going to touch base next episode about. What do we do when we try to show up vulnerably and it's not welcome? And I'm certain we're going to talk again about the level, the consciousness. So um yeah, I feel like we're going to be able to talk more about how our consciousness can actually help us go through the challenges of vulnerability. Wow, I love this. I really
mm,
love this.
mm, mm.
Thank you so much. Beautiful soul. I love that you said touch the soul. That's what creates transformation. That's why we say when we get transformed or we transcend something, it's true, is because our soul has been touched. And for the logical mind, sometimes it's hard to comprehend, but when they experience it, even the most logical people, it is powerful. It's inexplicable. People live it, they experience it, and something shifts because we touch the soul, like you said. And it
Mhm.
doesn't have to take time sometimes. It's just like
Yeah.
accumulation of something, and boom, something happens, and boom, you let go of something. You made a choice, a decision, an intention. And when everything is aligned, transformation comes in. I love this. Oh my gosh, to reflect on.
So much. Oh my God. Thank you so much to you. Thank you so much to all of you to be part of this journey. And we are all going through our soul in a body, human body on a hurt experience. Let's say it this way. I don't know how to say what's the translation. I always say it in French, but yeah, just thank you, and you all be blessed for real.
Absolutely. Thank you
Mm.
so much. See you see you next week, guys, and we'll be discussing further along on the topic
Yeah.
of reality. Thank you.
Thank you.